Welcome to the Yawniverse, your ultimate destination for calming space videos, sleepy science storytelling, and soothing audio journeys through the quiet side of the cosmos. If you find comfort amongst the stars, consider subscribing, leaving a like, or letting your thoughts echo in the comments. Now, let's begin. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, there are stories whispered across immense stretches of time. They are not stories of sound and fury, but of a quiet, patient ballet. A slow dance of creation and transformation, unfolding over billions of years, far beyond our fleeting gaze. Tonight, we turn our attention to one such story, a journey of immense scale, of cosmic birth, radiant life, and peaceful dissolution. This is the quiet life cycle of a star. The birth of a star is not a fiery explosion, but a subtle and serene convergence. Its cradle is a nebula, a colossal tranquil cloud of gas and dust, so vast that light would take years to journey from one side to the other. These immense stellar nurseries are not chaotic voids, but silent repositories of potential, waiting for the right conditions to begin their grand purpose. Imagine a cloud of hydrogen, helium, and cosmic dust, so thin and diffuse it seems to be nothing at all. Yet, within this ethereal veil, the universe's great sculptor, gravity, begins its patient work. It is a gentle, invisible hand, pulling particles closer, ever so slowly. For millions of years, this patient embrace continues, a slow and deliberate gathering of cosmic material. As the particles are drawn together, the cloud begins its inevitable collapse. It forms a dense, dark core at its heart, a stellar embryo known as a protostar. The surface of this nascent star is not yet incandescent, but within its core, pressure and temperature are beginning their inexorable, deliberate climb. It spins, gathering more and more material, growing in size and temperature, a quiet promise of the immense energy that will one day be released. This patient evolution can take as long as 100,000 years for a star like our Sun. For millions of years, the protostar continues its quiet evolution. Gravity works tirelessly, compressing its core until the pressure becomes nearly unimaginable. In this profound and patient squeeze, something monumental begins. The temperature at the very heart of the core rises to an incredible 10 million degrees. At this precise moment, the silent universe awakens with a new kind of energy. The hydrogen atoms, once drifting freely, are now forced to collide with such velocity that they fuse, bonding together to become a new element. This is nuclear fusion, and it is the beating heart of a star. A main sequence star is born. The star is no longer collapsing under its own weight. A profound and delicate balance has been struck. The immense outward pressure from the heat and light of nuclear fusion is perfectly matched by the inward pull of gravity. It is this cosmic tug-of-war that grants a star its long, stable, and radiant life. For stars like our own Sun, this peaceful existence will endure for 10 billion years. But not all stars are created equal. The lifespan of a star is a direct function of its mass. The smallest stars, known as red dwarfs, can burn their fuel so slowly that their lives can stretch for trillions of years, far longer than the current age of the universe. The most massive stars, on the other hand, are like cosmic hot rods, burning through their fuel at a furious pace and living for only a few million years. Our Sun, a yellow dwarf, sits comfortably in the middle, a testament to cosmic consistency. Every second, deep within the star's fiery core, hundreds of millions of tons of hydrogen are quietly converted into helium. This process provides the radiant energy that bathes planets in light and warms distant worlds. There is a quiet majesty to this long middle chapter of a star's life. It is not a dramatic, fleeting event, but a long, gentle exhalation of light. Our sun is in this phase right now, and has been for nearly 5 billion years. It is a time of cosmic consistency, a slow and predictable burn that provides the very foundation for life to emerge. As we look up at the stars in our night sky, we are not looking at fiery, chaotic explosions, but mostly at stars in this serene main sequence phase. Each one is a silent, distant powerhouse, a testament to the elegant balance of the fundamental forces of the universe. They are the quiet sentinels of the galaxy, patiently burning their cosmic fuel, giving light to the darkness. This long, stable phase is a star's prime. It is the time of its greatest luminosity and its most enduring tranquility. But even a star's eternal flame has a finite amount of fuel. The hydrogen in its core is slowly, inexorably being consumed. And when the hydrogen begins to run low, the quiet, steady rhythm of its life will begin to change. For a star, its main sequence life is an era of quiet consistency. The hydrogen in its core provides the perfect, steady fuel for its luminous existence. But even the vastness of a star's core has its limits. The supply of hydrogen, so abundant at its birth, is not infinite. Over billions of years, it is quietly converted into helium. And as the star's heart fills with this new, heavier element, a profound change begins to take place. It is a transformation so slow that it defies human conception of time. The star's core, now rich in helium, can no longer sustain the fusion that held gravity at bay. The core begins to contract once more, its gravity pulling inward. This contraction generates immense heat, far beyond what it had known before. This new, blistering energy travels outward, igniting a shell of hydrogen that still surrounds the helium core. This new fusion, happening in a thin shell, is far more vigorous than the slow, steady burn of the past. The outward pressure from this newfound heat becomes so powerful that it overwhelms the star's gravity. The star's outer layers, once so stable, now begin to swell. The star inflates, slowly and patiently, growing to a colossal size. Its surface cools as it expands, and its bright yellow-white glow deepens into a profound crimson. This is the birth of a red giant. For a star like our sun, this expansion would be a breathtaking and terrifying spectacle. Its outer layers would swell beyond the orbit of Mercury, then Venus, and eventually they would gently engulf the Earth. It would be a slow-motion, cosmic disaster, not with a bang, but with a quiet, creeping inflation that consumes all in its path. Yet, to the star itself, this is simply the next necessary phase of its life. The star's core, meanwhile, continues to contract, becoming hotter and denser still. The helium atoms within are not yet fusing. They are simply being squeezed into an incredible state of matter. The star is a giant with a tiny, white-hot and super-dense heart, enclosed within a vast, cool, and glowing red envelope. This is a time of immense internal stress. Yet from the outside, the red giant is a serene, majestic, and beautiful sight. Its surface is vast, turbulent, and filled with slow, rolling waves of gas. The light it emits is dimmer, but its sheer size makes it more luminous than it ever was before. It is a slow, patient goodbye to its prime, and an embrace of a new but fleeting form. The star will linger in this state for a few 100 million years, a brief moment compared to the billions it spent on the main sequence. But its journey is not yet over. The core, still contracting, will eventually reach the critical temperature to ignite the helium within, and with that, the star will find a new, temporary lease on life. Within the vast, tranquil expanse of the red giant, a silent tension grows. The helium core, though inert for now, is being squeezed by the crushing weight of the star's outer layers. For millions of years, the core has been a pressure cooker, becoming hotter and denser with each passing millennium. It reaches a state so exotic that it defies the very laws of a normal gas. It is a state known as degenerate matter, where the atoms are packed so tightly that they cannot be compressed further. And then it happens. Without warning or fanfare, the core reaches a critical temperature, about 100 million degrees. The helium nuclei, once a quiet, dense mass, suddenly begin to fuse into a new element, carbon. This ignition is known as the helium flash. It is not a visible explosion in the way we might think of one. The immense pressure of the star's outer layers contains the outburst. Instead, it is an explosion of light and heat, contained deep within the star's heart. The core, in an instant, erupts with the energy of 100 billion suns. The heat from this flash works to undo the very conditions that created it, pushing back against the degeneracy of the core and allowing the star to return to a more stable state. For a brief period, only a few 100 million years, the star finds a new, temporary harmony. It is a second wind in its long cosmic journey. Its core is now fusing helium into carbon, while a shell of hydrogen still burns around it. The star shrinks from its red giant size, becoming a little smaller and much hotter. It is a peaceful, if short-lived, return to a semblance of stability. But this peace cannot last. The new fuel, helium, burns at a much faster rate than hydrogen. This second act of fusion is brilliant and powerful, but it is fleeting. The star is living on borrowed time, its true end already written in the quiet laws of physics. As the helium in the core dwindles, the core begins to fill with carbon. Once again, fusion in the center ceases, and once again, the star begins its slow, patient preparation for its final act. The core, still contracting, will eventually reach the critical temperature to ignite the carbon within. But for a star of this size, a star similar to our own sun, it will never reach the temperatures required to ignite carbon. The journey of fusion ends here, with a core of solid carbon and oxygen, and no more fuel to sustain its fire. And with that, the star's outer layers begin to swell one last time. It re-inflates, becoming even larger and more luminous than it was as a red giant. A final, beautiful gesture before its inevitable end. This final, grand expansion is the star's quiet, graceful way of preparing to shed its skin. The star has lived for billions of years, but now its final moments are approaching. The immense energy of its core is causing its outer layers to become unstable and thin. The star begins to pulse, its outer envelope gently pushing outward, then contracting. A slow, deep breath of a dying titan. It is at this point that the fate of the star diverges, a journey that is decided not by chance, but by the weight of its very being. The most massive stars will meet a spectacular, violent end. But for a star like ours, the ending is more serene, more tranquil. It is an end that is not of fire, but of a quiet, beautiful fade into the cosmic night, with its core now a silent, carbon-rich cinder. The star's final act begins. The immense pressure from within has pushed its outer layers to their limit, and now, without the steady force of fusion to hold them in place, These layers are gently and patiently exhaled into the void. This is not a violent explosion, but a quiet, graceful shedding. Like a great cosmic flower unfurling, the star casts off its luminous petals, a vast and ethereal cloud of gas and gust. This cosmic flower is what we call a planetary nebula. The name is a relic from an earlier time, a misunderstanding by astronomers who first saw them through primitive telescopes and thought they resembled the planets of our solar system. In truth, they have nothing to do with planets. They are the beautiful, final gesture of a dying star. As the nebula expands, the core that was once a red giant becomes visible for the first time in eons. It is small, a brilliant and dense orb of pure energy. The intense radiation from this tiny, superheated core causes the surrounding cloud of gas to glow, creating a spectacular and vibrant display of colors. The nebula can appear as a ring, a butterfly, or a simple, glowing sphere of light, shaped by the star's rotation and the forces of its final years. At the very center of this grand and beautiful cloud is all that remains of the star. After billions of years of existence, after a life of immense power and constant transformation, what is left is a tiny, incredibly dense object known as a white dwarf. The white dwarf is a star's ghost. It is no longer fusing elements. It is left is a tiny, incredibly dense object known as a white dwarf. It is an ember glowing with the immense heat it retained from its long life. A star like our sun, once so vast, has now been compressed into a sphere no larger than the Earth. But its mass is still nearly that of the original star. Its density is almost unimaginable. A single teaspoon of a white dwarf's matter would weigh several tons, an entire mountain range of material condensed into the size of your hand. It is a silent, quiet monument to its former self. The fusion that created light and warmth for billions of years has ceased. The stellar life cycle for this star is at an end. It has performed its final act, and now it embarks on its longest, most serene journey of all. A journey into silence and solitude. The white dwarf will simply sit at the center of its beautiful, fading nebula and slowly, patiently radiate its heat into the cold, black vacuum of space. It is a slow, cosmic farewell that will take trillions upon trillions of years. It will not explode, nor will it change. It will just fade, cooling from a searing white to a quiet yellow, then a soft red, and eventually, after more time than the universe has yet known, it will become a cold, black, and invisible ember. The quiet journey of a sun-like star, from a vast and empty cloud to a silent, glowing ember, is now complete. We have witnessed its entire life, a story of patience and profound tranquility. Its final act is not an explosion, but a serene and gradual fading into the cosmic night. For these stars, their story ends in a peaceful whisper, but the cosmos is a canvas of immense variety, and not all stories are told in a whisper. The destiny of a star, its final act, is determined by a single fundamental factor: its mass. Everything we have just described, the gentle expansion into a red giant, the formation of a planetary nebula, the quiet birth of a white dwarf, is the fate reserved for stars of low to medium mass, stars up to about 8 times the mass of our own sun. For a star born with a much greater mass, its life cycle is a brilliant, powerful, and ultimately a far more dramatic affair. The immense gravity of these stellar giants creates a universe of internal pressure and heat. forcing them to live fast and die spectacularly. Their lives are brief, and their deaths are violent, beautiful explosions that can outshine entire galaxies. Their journey is one not of quiet fading, but of a triumphant, roaring finale. Imagine a star born with a mass 10, 15, or even 50 times greater than our Sun. Its life begins in the same way, from a cloud of gas and dust, but its core is so hot, so dense, that it burns through its hydrogen fuel at an astonishing rate. These giants are the brightest and most luminous stars in the galaxy, living life in the cosmic fast lane, burning through their fuel in mere millions of years, not billions. Their immense gravity is their defining force, driving a frantic and desperate need to fuse heavier and heavier elements in their cores to prevent collapse. When they exhaust their hydrogen, they do not simply become a red giant. They become a red supergiant, a colossal sphere so vast that if our Sun were replaced by one, its surface would extend far beyond the orbit of Mars, and possibly even Jupiter. And within this gargantuan, brilliant shell, the star's core continues its frantic race against time. It fuses helium into carbon, then carbon into neon, neon into oxygen, oxygen into silicon, and finally, silicon into iron. With each new element, the temperature and pressure required to ignite fusion becomes greater and greater. The star is a layered cosmic onion, with shells of different elements burning at different rates, all rushing toward an inevitable, quiet end. But for these massive stars, there is no quiet end. The moment they forge iron in their core, their fate is sealed. Fusion has reached its final limit. Forging elements heavier than iron consumes energy rather than releasing it. The star has no more fuel, and gravity's final, crushing victory is now assured. The colossal star has reached its final limit. Its core, now a ball of iron, can no longer sustain the fusion that has defined its life. In a final, desperate moment, gravity, the force that so patiently sculpted the star's birth, takes its ultimate and crushing victory. The core, no longer supported by the outward pressure of fusion, collapses in on itself in a fraction of a second. The speed of this collapse is unimaginable, faster than the speed of light could travel across the core. The core's immense mass is compressed into an object of impossible density, squeezing all the protons and electrons together to form a solid, impossibly hard ball of neutrons. And then, just as suddenly, the collapse stops. The core, now a solid neutron object, cannot be compressed any further. It is so rigid, so dense, that the rest of the star's material, which is still falling inward, hits this core like a tidal wave crashing into a steel wall. The entire star, which has been imploding on itself, violently rebounds. A shock wave, born from this incredible collision, races outward, tearing through the star's outer layers. This is the supernova. In this moment, a star that has patiently burned for millions of years releases more energy than our Sun will in its entire 10 billion year life. The explosion is so luminous, but for a brief period, it can outshine an entire galaxy. Within this fiery aftermath, temperatures and pressures are so extreme, but new, heavier elements, like gold and silver, are forged and scattered across the cosmos. But the story does not end with the explosion. In the heart of the supernova, all that is left is the incredibly dense remnant of the core. The fate of this core is determined by its mass. If the remnant is between 1.4 and 3 times the mass of our Sun, the collapsed core stabilizes into a neutron star. It is a star born of silence and impossible density. A sphere no bigger than a city, yet it holds the mass of a star. A single teaspoon of its material would weigh billions of tons. It spins at incredible speeds, and its gravity is so powerful that it warps the very fabric of space and time around it. But for the most massive stars of all, those that began with more than 20 times the mass of our Sun, there is no force in the universe strong enough to stop the collapse. The gravity is too immense. The core implodes and keeps imploding until it becomes a single point of infinite density. It is a place where space and time itself cease to exist. This is the birth of a black hole. This is the birth of a black hole. A silent, invisible gravitational vortex that swallows light and information. A profound mystery and a quiet monument to the life of a truly enormous star. We have now witnessed the full scope of a star's quiet journey. We have seen the peaceful, patient fade of a sun-like star, its long life ending in the elegant beauty of a planetary nebula and the silent solitude of a white dwarf. And we have seen the brilliant, accelerated life of a massive star, its violent demise in a supernova explosion, giving birth to the impossible densities of a neutron star, or the profound mystery of a black hole. Two different lives, two entirely different destinies, but in their magnificent differences, we find a shared and beautiful truth. Nothing in the universe is truly lost. The planetary nebula, the glowing remnants of a supernova, they are not cosmic endings, but grand acts of recycling. The very atoms scattered across the void will one day be pulled together by gravity, becoming the building blocks for a new generation of stars and planets. Or, property is already being. The iron in your blood, the carbon that forms the basis of all life, the oxygen in the air you breathe, all of these elements were forged in the fiery heart of a star that lived and died long ago. In the grand, silent theater of the cosmos, we are all a part of this endless, patient cycle. We are connected not only to the stars that shine in our night sky, but to the stars that have already lived and passed away. The stories of their birth and death are written into our very being. So the next time you look up at the night sky, do not just see pinpricks of light. See a constant ballet of creation and transformation. See a universe in motion. A grand, quiet song of birth and death, of beginnings and endings. And know that in the stillness of the dark, we are all made of stardust, forever a part of the quiet, enduring hymn of the Yawniverse. The stars we have explored are not solitary, silent islands in the cosmic ocean. They are part of a much grander, silent islands in the cosmic ocean. They are part of a much grander, more majestic structure. Billions of stars, along with vast clouds of gas, dust, and dark matter, are bound together by gravity in a slow, swirling dance. This is the quiet, magnificent life of a galaxy. Imagine a galaxy as a great, luminous city of stars. Our own, the Milky Way, is one such city. It is a vast, ancient spiral, a flat disk of light and dust, with graceful arms that unfurl like a cosmic pinwheel. We reside in one of these arms, a small neighborhood of stars tucked away in a quiet corner of our galactic home. From our perspective, we can only see a cross-section of this disk, a hazy band of light stretching across our night sky, the very light that gives our galaxy its name. But to an outside observer, it is a breathtaking sight, a slow rotating masterpiece of light and gravity. The movement within a galaxy is not a frantic, chaotic race. It is an orderly, patient orbit. Every star, every cloud of gas, every speck of dust is a part of this cosmic waltz. Our sun, for instance, is on a long, unhurried journey, taking about 230 million years to complete a single lap around the galactic center. To put that into perspective, the last time our solar system was in this same position, dinosaurs still roamed the Earth. This slow, predictable motion is the defining rhythm of a galaxy's life. Yet, even in this serene dance, there is a profound, unseen force at work. The visible matter, the stars and gas that we can see, is not enough to hold the galaxy together. There is an invisible cosmic glue, a mysterious substance known as dark matter, that makes up the vast majority of a galaxy's mass. Without it, the stars on the outer edges would be flung out into the lonely darkness of intergalactic space. Dark matter is the silent guardian of the galaxy, a quiet, invisible presence that dictates the tempo of this grand, celestial dance. These great cities of stars do not exist in isolation. They are, in fact, members of vast communities, bound together by gravity into immense structures known as galaxy clusters. Our own Milky Way is a part of a smaller group called the Local Group, which is a collection of over 54 galaxies, including our nearest large neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. And just as our Sun is in a slow dance around the galactic center, the galaxies within these clusters are also in a quiet, gravitational waltz with each other, slowly spiraling toward a shared center of mass. The Andromeda Galaxy, for instance, is on a collision course with our Milky Way. But do not fret, this is a slow-motion event that will not happen for another 4.5 billion years. When it does, it will not be a catastrophic crash. The space between stars is so vast that very few, if any, will actually collide. Instead, the two galaxies will pass through each other, their gravitational fields pulling and stretching each other into new, magnificent shapes. They will eventually merge to form a new, even larger galaxy, a celestial city with a new name, born from the patient destruction and reconstruction of its predecessors. And even these clusters are not the end of the story. Galaxy clusters themselves are organized into superstructures, like immense cosmic spiderwebs, known as the cosmic web. These are the largest structures in the known universe, made of threads and filaments of galaxies and dark matter, all interconnected and woven together across billions of light years. In the yawning voids between these filaments, there is almost nothing at all. The universe, on its grandest scale, is a silent, breathtaking network of immense, glowing threads and vast, empty spaces. And within this cosmic tapestry, the stars we know, the planets we have yet to discover, and the galaxies that define our existence are all but tiny, glowing knots in a much larger and much more patient design. The grand story of galaxies and their motion is just one chapter in an even longer, more profound tale. It is a story that begins not with a gentle gathering of gas and dust, but with an event so powerful, so immense, but it defies our everyday understanding. It is the story of cosmic time, and its first words were written in a moment of unimaginable energy and density. The universe began not with an explosion in space, but with the expansion of space itself. This is the Big Bang.
Imagine, if you will, that all the matter and energy of the cosmos were contained in a single point, smaller than the head of a pin, but possessing infinite density and temperature. This is not a moment we can truly picture, but we can quietly observe its aftershocks. In that very first instant, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began to expand. It was a period of incredible, exponential growth, known as cosmic inflation, where the fabric of space-time stretched at a rate far exceeding the speed of light. In this flash of an eye, the universe went from being infinitely small to a vast, churning soup of fundamental particles. There was no light, just an immense, brilliant heat, a dense and roiling ocean of energy. It was a time before stars, before galaxies, before even atoms could exist. As the universe expanded, it cooled. The heat began to dissipate, and the fundamental particles, quarks, electrons, and gluons, began to form. Then, in a pivotal moment, just a few minutes after the Big Bang, these particles began to bind together, forming the first stable elements, hydrogen and helium. The universe was still a hot, opaque fog, and light could not travel through it. It was a silent, luminous darkness, an immense cosmic veil that shrouded the universe from our sight. This period would last for hundreds of thousands of years. It was a quiet, patient wait for the universe to cool down enough to reveal itself. This era is known as the Dark Ages of the cosmos, a time of silent, featureless gas clouds, before the first stars would ignite and bring light to the night. As the universe continued to expand and cool, a profound change began to take place. About 400,000 years after the Big Bang, the temperature dropped to the point where the first atoms could form. Electrons, which had been trapped in the hot, chaotic soup of particles, could now be captured by the nuclei of hydrogen and helium. This event, known as recombination, was a quiet but pivotal moment in cosmic history. With the electrons now bound to the nuclei, the universe became transparent for the first time. The dense, opaque fog of plasma lifted, and light, which had been trapped for eons, was finally free to travel across the cosmos. This first light is still with us today, stretched and cooled by the expansion of the universe into the faint microwave radiation that permeates all of space, the cosmic microwave background, CMB. It is the oldest light in the universe, a silent, static echo of the Big Bang itself. With the universe now transparent, it entered the quietest phase of its existence. This was not a time of chaos, but of immense, profound stillness. For hundreds of millions of years, it entered the Dark Ages. This was not a time of chaos, but of immense, profound stillness, filled with immense, featureless clouds of neutral hydrogen and helium gas. There were no stars, no galaxies, no sources of light. It was a period of serene tranquility, where the gentle tug of gravity was the only force at work. In this patient, silent darkness, the first seeds of the future began to grow. Tiny density fluctuations in the gas clouds, remnants from the Big Bang, began to slowly, inexorably pull more gas inward. These tiny, imperceptible concentrations of matter were the seeds of the very first stars and galaxies. It was a long, patient wait for the first light to ignite once more, for the universe to be reborn from the quiet darkness into a new age of luminosity. For hundreds of millions of years, the universe was a silent, featureless sea of hydrogen and helium gas. But within this immense stillness, the quiet hand of gravity was at work, tirelessly pulling matter together. In the densest pockets of the gas clouds, the first seeds of cosmic structure began to form. These were not the stars we see today. The first generation of stars, known as population 3 stars, were colossal, brilliant giants, hundreds of times the mass of our Sun. Because there were no heavy elements yet, they were born of pure hydrogen and helium. These stars burned with a furious, short-lived intensity, living fast and dying young in spectacular supernova explosions. And it was in these violent deaths that the universe was changed forever. The first supernovae scattered the first heavy elements, carbon, oxygen, and iron, into the surrounding gas clouds. This cosmic recycling enriched the raw material of the universe, setting the stage for the next generation of stars. These new stars, born from gas that now contained a touch of stardust, were smaller, longer-lived, and much more like our Sun. The era of the first stars is known as reionization, a time when the intense ultraviolet light from these brilliant giants began to strip the electrons from the surrounding gas, making the universe transparent once more. The long night of the Dark Ages was over, and the cosmos was finally, truly illuminated. With the birth of the first stars came the birth of the first galaxies. Gravity continued its quiet work, pulling these early stars into immense clusters, forming the first luminous cities in the universe. These early galaxies were small and chaotic, but they were the foundations of the magnificent spiral and elliptical galaxies we see today. This transition from a dark, featureless void to a universe filled with light and structure was a slow, patient, and beautiful process. The universe, now filled with light and structure, has a long, quiet future ahead of it. But like all things, it too has a story that will one day end. The final chapter of the cosmos is one of great debate, with 3 main possibilities that unfold over trillions of years, each one a testament to the patient and inexorable laws of physics. The first possibility is a quiet reverse of the beginning, the Big Crunch. In this scenario, the expansion of the universe, which began with the Big Bang, would one day slow, stop, and then reverse. Gravity, the same force that pulled together stars and galaxies, would finally win its long cosmic battle, pulling all matter back toward a single, infinitely dense point. The cosmos would become smaller, hotter, and denser, until all of the galaxies, stars, and planets are crushed together in a final, quiet collapse. It would be a mirror image of the Big Bang, but in reverse, the silent closing of a cosmic curtain. The second possibility, and the final quiet collapse, it would be a mirror image of the Big Bang, but in reverse, the silent closing of a cosmic curtain. Heat death. In this scenario, the universe would continue to expand forever, but with a slow, deliberate purpose. Over trillions of years, the last stars would burn out, the last galaxies would fade, and the universe would be plunged into an eternal darkness. The cosmos would become a vast, cold expanse of dead stars, black holes, and stray particles, all moving farther and farther away from each other. There would be no heat, no light, no energy left to sustain any form of existence. The universe would simply grow cold, a silent, dark void of incredible emptiness. The third possibility is the most violent end of all, the Big Rip. This scenario suggests that a mysterious force, known as dark energy, which is currently accelerating the expansion of the universe, will one day become so powerful that it will tear everything apart. It would first rip galaxies apart, then solar systems, then planets, and finally,
even atoms themselves. The fabric of space-time would be shredded, and the universe would end not with a quiet whimper, but with a final, ultimate shriek of destruction. These are the three quiet ends of the universe, each one a profound and patient journey into the finality of existence. With these possibilities, we have come to the end of the universe's long story. A story that began with a moment of impossible density, and will one day end in either a quiet collapse, a frigid expansion, or a final, violent rip. These are the last words of the cosmos, but they are not an ending. For in the vast, silent stretches of time, all that has been and all that will be is but a single, serene breath in the quiet life of the Yawniverse.